The first night, the woods whistled my name before I ever told them what it was. The sound slid through the trees like breath through teeth, soft but certain, as if the forest itself was remembering me. I froze by the cabin window, watching moonlight bend through fog that shouldn't have been there, wondering if solitude had ever been this alive. The stillness felt rehearsed, like every leaf and shadow was waiting for my next move. My breath fogged the glass, and in that blur I swore I saw movement, not outside, but behind my reflection. The cabin's old walls groaned as if clearing their throat, the kind of sound that comes before a confession. Somewhere in the distance, an owl called once, then fell silent, abruptly, unnaturally. And when the wind picked up again carrying that same tune that mimicked my whistle, I realized something dreadful. The forest wasn't echoing me. It was answering. The second whistle came at 2:13 a.m., softer than the first, but closer. It slipped through the cracks in the wood like a whisper seeking warmth. I told myself it was the wind. Yet every note curved like a memory of my own voice. The fire had long died, but the air inside the cabin pulsed faintly, as if listening. I turned toward the door, certain someone stood on the other side, watching the light under the frame. But the handle never moved. It was patience, not intrusion, that kept me awake. Something out there waiting for me to make the next sound. Dawn arrived, pale and slow, dragging thin light across the clearing. I stepped outside to find the ground touched by frost, and footprints leading away from the cabin. They were barefoot, narrow, and mirrored my size exactly. The forest looked innocent again. The fog dissolved, the silence thick with pretense. Yet the prints led deeper into the trees, curving toward the hollow where the whistle had come from. Something wanted me to follow. Something knew I would. By nightfall, the forest had gone still again, but the cabin had not. Its boards creaked in slow rhythm, like lungs drawing shallow air. The kettle on the stove began to whistle on its own, though no fire burned beneath it. The windows fogged from inside, words forming faintly, as if written by unseen hands. Stay inside. I stumbled back, but every sound I made was answered by another, softer, closer. That night, the whistle didn't come. It spoke. A low, broken voice from beneath the floorboards, steady and deliberate. My name again and again, each time clearer than the last. I pressed my ear to the wood and heard breathing, slow and human. My pulse matched it. The boards were cold, but something underneath them was alive. When I whispered, "Who are you?" the answer came back in my own voice. "You!" Morning came colorless, the world hushed and wide as a secret kept too long. I hadn't slept. The whisper of my own name still coiled inside my ears. I pulled back the rug and found a square seam in the cabin floor, edges darkened by age and something else. Damp? Maybe blood. When I lifted the first board, the air below exhaled, damp and sour, like the breath of something that had waited centuries to be heard. I found a ladder nailed into the earth beneath the floor, steps leading down into a hollow chamber carved from stone. Each rung was slick, each breath colder. The deeper I went, the more the sound above faded, until it was just me and the heartbeat of the soil. The air shimmered faintly, as if light itself was afraid to stay. The hollow was wider than the cabin, its walls sculpted with impressions, faces pressed into mud, mouths open in silent cries. Some were fresh, too detailed to be old. One of them looked like me. I stepped closer, trembling, tracing the edge of that familiar cheek, and the soil moved beneath my fingertips, warm, pulsing, alive. Something shifted in the wall, a small hand pushing through the mud, clutching at my sleeve. I screamed, but no sound left me. The air devoured it. The fingers were cold and slick, childlike. But when I tried to pull away, they tightened with impossible strength. Beneath my fear, I heard that faint tune again. The same whistle, but this time from under my skin. I stumbled back up to the cabin, gasping, clutching my arm. The air above felt too thin, too bright. I reached for the mirror above the hearth, and for a heartbeat, my reflection wasn't mine. The face smiled, not cruelly, but knowingly. "You opened the wrong door," it mouthed. Behind me, the floorboards creaked once more. By the time night folded over the cabin again, the mirror had fogged on its own. The glass pulsed faintly, like a lung behind silver. I wiped it clean, but my reflection lagged, a second too late. A heartbeat out of rhythm. When I stepped back, it leaned forward. Its mouth formed my name, but the sound came from behind me, not the glass. At dawn, I found symbols carved into the cabin wall, just beneath where I'd slept. Circles within circles, carved deep into the wood, still warm to the touch. I pressed my palm against one and felt a slow, heavy pulse. The sound matched the rhythm from beneath the floor. The cabin wasn't built on the forest. It was built out of it. At dusk, I saw a figure through the window, still as a statue, half hidden by fog. He didn't move, not even when I whispered a trembling hello. Only his coat fluttered faintly, his face hidden in shadow. I blinked once and he was gone. But when I turned, the cabin door was ajar, and the air smelled like wet iron. Under the bed, beneath dust and splinters, I found an old leather journal tied with fraying string. Its pages were brittle, ink smeared by moisture and time. Every entry began with a date, and every date ended the same way. The woods have learned my name. The last page was dated exactly 1 year ago today. That night, a dim light swayed deep in the forest, the same distance every time I looked, neither nearer nor farther. The wind carried fragments of my name again, drifting between trees. I turned off the cabin lamp, hoping darkness would hide me. But in the reflection of the glass, I saw it flicker. Once, twice, as if it knew I was watching. By the time the wind returned, it wasn't just moving the trees. It was speaking through them. Every gust carried fragments of a sentence, scattered and low, shaping words I could almost understand. I pressed my ear to the wall, and the wood vibrated like a living throat. Somewhere outside, a voice that wasn't mine whispered the melody I thought only I knew. The sound began just after midnight. Footsteps pacing across the cabin roof, measured, calm, deliberate. Each step stopped directly above where I stood, waiting long enough for the air to thicken. Then it continued, slower, dragging. When I gathered the courage to look outside, the roof was empty, but the snow around the cabin had no footprints at all. I stepped out into the open clearing, the air thick as breath. From the tree line, the voice began again, quiet, pleading, almost kind. It said my name with the rhythm of a lullaby. When I whispered back, the forest leaned closer. Every trunk and branch swayed toward me in unison, creaking like bones. The whisper turned to breath. Then came the eyes. Dozens of them, small and low, glinting between trunks. They didn't blink, only shimmered faintly, as if reflecting something unseen. I wanted to run, but the earth under my feet felt warm, soft, alive. And from that living soil came the hum of 100 hidden voices, all breathing in time with me. When I finally turned to flee, the trees shifted, not swaying, moving. Their roots tore through the frost, twisting toward the cabin. Each groan of the wood sounded like speech. I ran, branches clawing at my arms, and as I reached the door, I heard the voice again, louder, inside my head this time. You shouldn't have listened. I couldn't stop hearing it. That sound beneath the floor, like the earth breathing my name. The boards trembled with every beat of the hollow below, a rhythm that matched my pulse too perfectly to ignore. I lifted the rug again, hands shaking, and when I knelt to touch the seam, the wood was warm. The whisper beneath it wasn't calling anymore. It was waiting. When I pried the boards open, light spilled out. Not sunlight, but something older. It shimmered like breath caught in amber, twisting in slow motion. The hollow below was deeper than before, alive with that same pulse I'd felt under my skin. The air smelled of rain and old metal, the kind of scent that comes before lightning. Something moved within the light. Small, slow, like a child wading through water. The shape rose halfway before fading, its outline flickering as if made of smoke. Then from the edge of the hollow, a small hand reached up again, only this time it wasn't asking for help. It was pointing toward me. Toward me. The whistle turned into a song, low and sweet, vibrating through the air. The hollow began to hum, boards rising and falling as if the cabin itself was breathing with the melody. The walls trembled. Dust fell from the rafters, and the voice below sang my name with harmony. Hundreds of them, layered and human. It wasn't a warning. It was an invitation. The song stopped. Silence spread through the floor like oil. Then a single voice rose, deeper, older, and too close. The boards split apart, revealing a vast blackness pulsing beneath the house, veins of light crawling along the ground like roots. I screamed, but no sound left me. Something was rising, and it knew I had listened. When the ground sealed itself again, the air went dead. My heartbeat filled the silence, but even that didn't sound like mine anymore. The voice came from the mirror first, not spoken, but breathed. "You woke us." I stumbled back, every reflection in the room. Metal, glass, even the window, shifting just a half-second behind me. The cabin wasn't echoing, it was remembering. Or show. Astenio and Kiri, Sferni is in the rot trunning dat. Every mirror now showed someone different. Dozens of faces, old and new, each one flickering like candlelight. Their eyes followed me in perfect sync, but none were mine. As I watched, their mouths began to move in unison, forming silent words that I understood without sound. "Stay with us." I closed my eyes, but the darkness had faces too. There was a knock, slow, polite, deliberate. When I opened the door, the man from the fog stood there. His eyes were hollow, his smile faint, and his voice carried the same rhythm as the whistle. "It's good to see you again," he said, though I had never met him. Behind him, the forest leaned closer, branches reaching like listening hands. He stepped inside without being invited. The air bent around him. The flame in the lantern bowed low as if in reverence. "You opened the hollow," he said quietly. "Now it needs a keeper." His voice was gentle, but his shadow spread like spilled ink across the floor, connecting to the cracks I had made. I backed away, but the floor pulsed with his words. He turned his head toward the mirror, and the faces within it began to move again, only this time they weren't trapped. They stepped out, faint, half-formed, made of fog and memory. Their voices layered into one sound, my name repeated endlessly. The man smiled. "They only remember what they loved," he whispered. Then he vanished, and I was left surrounded by what had once been forgotten. By morning, the cabin had changed. The walls had grown rough, bark pushing through the wood, sap dripping like blood. The air smelled of pine and decay. I could hear wind, though the windows were closed, whispering through branches that now crawled across the ceiling. The forest was no longer outside. It had come in to claim what was left of me. The floorboards swelled again, breathing beneath my feet. Every pulse echoed with that familiar hum, now deep and rhythmic, like a heartbeat of the earth itself. I felt it pull at me, gently at first, then stronger, a tide of warmth and sound. The walls whispered in unison, hundreds of voices, all saying the same word, "Home." I caught a flicker of movement in the mirror again. This time, my reflection didn't wait. It moved first. It smiled, calm and certain, and lifted its hand to the glass. When I didn't move, it knocked twice. The sound echoed not from the mirror, but from the floor. Slowly, the reflection whispered, "It's your turn." I walked to the hollow without resistance. The boards opened before me like a sigh, welcoming me back. The air below glowed soft and golden now, humming in rhythm with my breath. For a moment I thought I saw the child again. Small, waiting, smiling. Then I realized it wasn't the child at all. It was me. When the boards closed, the cabin fell silent. No wind, no light, no sound. Only the memory of breath. The forest outside grew still, the fog lifting as though it had exhaled for the last time. And somewhere deep beneath the roots, a new voice began to hum the old melody. Quiet, patient, familiar. The woods had learned another name.